What's up, everyone? It's the Poke Bowl show with your host, Poke right here. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. We are going into another bracketology today, and here it is. Let's go look at the bubble picture right now. So here's the bubble picture. As you can see, Florida, the last four byes are Florida Atlantic, Michigan State, Nebraska, and Seton Hall. Congratulations to those four teams. They are not going to have to play into the tournament, according to me. Last four in is New Mexico, Virginia, St. John's, and Colorado. First four out, sorry guys, y'all are the big losers this week in Villanova, Providence, Wake Forest, and Utah. The next four out, very slim chance of making the tournament at this point in the year is Pitt, Memphis, K-State, and Iowa. Crazier things have happened though, so they still got a chance. So let's go into the first four games and my picks to win these ones. New Mexico versus St. John's. This is an amazing matchup. As you know, St. John's coach is Rick Pitino. New Mexico coach is Richard Pitino. So, like father, like son, they made the first four games and are going up against each other. Really interesting matchup. I think both teams have a lot of potential of making a deep run in the tournament. But I'm going to go with New Mexico right here. I'm just a big fan of House. I'm a big fan of Mashburn. I love JT Toppin. He's one of my favorite freshmen this year. So we're going to go New Mexico. NC Central versus Texas Southern, the battle of the two HBCU champs. I'm gonna go with NC Central here, though. I just got a feeling that they'll win this matchup. Virginia versus Colorado, not a big fan of either of these teams. I would say both New Mexico and St. John's are the better teams in the first four games, but here we're gonna go with Colorado over Virginia. So that leaves the last first four game, and that's Merrimack versus Milwaukee. I am going to go with Merrimack here. First time that they're eligible for the tournament. They were in the transition period the last few years, and I believe they actually won the NEC conference last year, but were ineligible, which gave Fairleigh Dickinson the auto bid, which, as we already know, became the second 16 seed to ever win. So we're going to go with Merrimack right there. So we're going to go in the upper left region, and that's the Midwest region. Purdue versus NC Central, I said. And this one's obvious, although Purdue lost to 16 seed last year. Don't see that happening again. Going to go with Purdue. We got Texas versus Mississippi State. I am going to go with Mississippi State here. Big fan of Chris Jans, and Tolu Smith is one of the best big men in the country. San Diego State versus McNeese. A lot of people are very high on McNeese. I'm not one of them. They play in a very weak conference. We're going to go with San Diego State here. This one matchup, you're going to be like Western Carolina. I have never seen a bracketologist have Western Carolina in their bracketology. Let me tell you right now, though, Western Carolina is going to make this year's tournament and win the SoCon championship. I'm a big fan of Bontarius Woolbright. I think that he's going to have some magic in him, and he's going to win the SoCon championship. Just not a big fan of this matchup, though, against Kentucky. We're going to go with Kentucky here. But if Western Carolina does make it and goes up against another 4 seed, I would very possibly pick Western Carolina in an upset. We got Florida versus Richmond here. I'm a big fan of Florida this year. We're going to go with the Gators. I know y'all are thinking, oh, so much chalk. And you're right, so far it is, but we're going to have some upsets coming up. Creighton versus Charleston. I know more chalk. Lucky us. We're going to go with the Creighton Blue Jays. I think Kalkbrenner and Shireman are just too much for Charleston. Dayton versus Seton Hall. I'm going to go with the upset. If y'all watched last week's episode, I had Seton Hall making the Final Four. I just big fan of Hidari Richmond. I think he's a beast, and not a big fan of Dayton. I think their issue is depth, and it's showing as of late. Iowa State versus Northern Colorado. Interesting matchup, but we're going with Iowa State here pretty easily. We're gonna now go with the round of 32, Purdue versus Mississippi State. Gonna go with Purdue here. So San Diego State versus Kentucky. I'm gonna go with Kentucky right here. I just think they have so much talent. Not a big fan of John Calipari, but at this point, I don't think it'll matter. Just way too much talent on Kentucky's team. Florida versus Creighton. We got the upset here. We're going to go with the Gators over Creighton in this matchup. Seton Hall versus Iowa State. I believe this was a matchup in last week's bracketology. I had Seton Hall in the upset, but this week I'm going to go with Iowa State. So we got Battle of Purdue versus Kentucky. I'm going to go with the upset with Kentucky. Just big fan of their talent and not big fan of Purdue this year. Florida versus Iowa State. This would be an intriguing game for me to see. I'm going to go with the Cyclones, though, of Iowa State. We got Kentucky versus Iowa State in the Elite Eight. We're going to go with Iowa State making the Final Four in this region. So we're going to go in the top right region, and that's the East region here. UConn versus, I believe I said Merrimack here. So we're going to go with UConn in this matchup. TCU versus Colorado State. I'm going to go with TCU. Big fan of Jamie Dixon. I think this team has so much talent. I'm an Oklahoma State Cowboy, as all of y'all might know. And Avery Anderson came from Oklahoma State. So going to kind of root for TCU in that matchup if it comes. BYU versus Grand Canyon. I am a big fan of BYU this year. I think Grand Canyon's also a great team with Bryce Drew as their coach, but I'm going to go with BYU here. Alabama versus Vermont. I'm going to go with the upset here. I'm going to go with Vermont. I'm not a big fan of Alabama. I just don't see the hype with them. So we're going to go with Vermont. Wisconsin versus New Mexico. This is what I'll say. Whoever wins that New Mexico versus St. John's matchup is going to win this matchup. In this case, I had New Mexico, so we're going to go with the Lobos. So we got Kansas versus Long Beach State. I know that I had Long Beach State winning this matchup last week, but recently they kind of looked a little off, and Kevin McCullough is back for Kansas. We're going to go with Kansas in this matchup. Texas Tech versus Michigan State. I think I had this matchup last week and went Texas Tech. This week I'm going to go with Michigan State. That's how close these teams are. I'm kind of flipping between both of them still. UNC versus Stetson. I'm going to go with UNC right here. I just think RJ Davis is one of the best players in the country. UConn versus TCU. We're going to go with UConn here. Although I do think TCU is capable, and with the previous history, you'll say reigning champs are going to lose in the round of 32. In recent history, you'd be right. And TCU, I think, has the chance to continue that run, but I'm just going to stick with UConn. I think they just looked way too good. BYU versus Vermont. I'm going to go with BYU. They've just looked way too good. This year, especially recently, such a great three-point shooting team, and I think that's going to be the end to Vermont. New Mexico versus Kansas. Love New Mexico. I'm sorry, KU fans, y'all will call me a hater, and yeah, I'm not a big fan of KU, but just a big fan of New Mexico. I've been praising them all year round. Gonna go with the Lobos. Michigan State versus UNC. Sorry, the Spartans. I'm going to go with UNC here. UConn versus BYU. We're going to go with UConn. And New Mexico versus North Carolina. I hate saying this. I really want to pick UNM, but I'm going to go with UNC here. And this is a 1-2 matchup between UConn versus UNC. I believe I had UConn winning it last week when they paired up. I'm going to go with UNC, though, this week with RJ Davis. I think UNC is going to win it. So we got the bottom right region here with the South region. It's going to be Houston versus North Dakota. Give me the Cougs. We're going to go with Houston Cougars right here. Nevada versus Northwestern, really good matchup. Nevada is just, I'm a big fan of Nevada's starting five. Lucas is great. Blackshear is great. Just so many great players on Nevada. Northwestern, I'm a big fan of Boo Booey. So this is a really intriguing matchup for me. We're gonna go with Nevada here though. Clemson versus South Florida. Give me South Florida USF Bulls. Dan, aka Bull, is gonna be really happy with that pick for me. Auburn versus Akron. We're gonna go with Auburn here. We got Washington State versus Indiana State. I'm going with Indiana State here. I think they're gonna win this matchup. We got Duke versus High Point. I really want to pick a 14/3 upset in one of these regions, and I think High Point is the team capable of it. No disrespect to Duke, a great team, but we're gonna go with the other North Carolina team in High Point pulling off the upset. We got Utah State versus Florida Atlantic. I'm gonna go with the Aggies at Utah State in this matchup. Marquette versus Colgate. Gonna go with Marquette here. Houston versus Nevada. Big game. I think that Houston's gonna win, but I could easily see Nevada win this game. We got South Florida versus Auburn. And actually, I'm thinking back. Let's go with Nevada over Houston, actually. So we're going to go with Nevada. I'm sorry for fooling y'all Houston Cougar fans. I just think Nevada's going to pull off the upset. South Florida versus Auburn. We're going with Auburn here. Indiana State versus High Point. I'm going to go with Indiana State, one of my favorite starting fives with Robbie Avila. They just got so many great players, Conwell, just so many. So we're gonna go with Indiana State here. Utah State versus Marquette. We're gonna go with Marquette here. We got Nevada versus Auburn. I had Auburn in the championship game last week, and man, it's tough. We're gonna go with the upset here though with Nevada. I know, a little shocking, but we need a Cinderella here. Indiana State versus Marquette. This region is just going to go crazy. We are going with the Sycamores of Indiana State. And if you ask me, oh, we're going to have an 8 versus 11 matchup in the Elite Eight, I would have called you crazy. And I'm still going to call you crazy. But that's what I got here in the South region. Nevada versus Indiana State. Really great matchup. I'm going to go with the Wolfpack here in Nevada. Did not think I would have had Nevada making the Final Four before doing this bracketology, but here we are with Nevada. And we got Tennessee versus Quinnipiac. Gonna go with Tennessee. We got Boise versus OU. Gonna go with Boise. The coach Leon Rice's son, I think his name is is it MJ Rice? I don't think it's MJ Rice. I'm blanking on his first name, but he is an absolute stud for Boise State. He's impressed me every time I've seen him play, especially at UNM. He's played extremely well against the Lobos. Gonna go with Boise State in that matchup. South Carolina versus James Madison. Give me the Gamecocks here. Illinois versus Cornell. We're gonna go with Illinois here. St. Mary's versus, I believe I had Colorado. Yep, I had Colorado over Virginia. We're going to go with the Gales of St. Mary's. Randy Bennett is a great coach. Baylor versus Sam Houston State. We're going to go with Scott Drew here and Baylor Bears. Just in really impressive starting five. Love the guard play up to this point for the Baylor Bears. Going to go with them. Gonzaga versus Nebraska. I'm going to go with Gonzaga. They've looked really well recently, have just beaten St. Mary's as of late. So they've gone from a bubble team to probably safely in the tournament. And we got Arizona over Western Illinois. And if you see that round of 32 matchup, your eyes are not deceiving you. We got a Mark Few versus Tommy Lloyd matchup. It's going to be so great to see when we get there. Tennessee versus Boise State. We are going with Dalton Connect and Tennessee there. South Carolina versus Illinois. we're gonna see a bit of a SEC matchup in the Sweet 16 when South Carolina beats Illinois. St. Mary's versus Baylor. I'm going with Baylor Bears right here. Gonzaga versus Arizona. Who do I pick? Tommy Lloyd versus old team in Gonzaga. I mean, Mark Few and Tommy Lloyd have history together, I think, for 20 years or so. So, going to be really interesting seeing those two pair up. We're going with the upset, though, with Gonzaga, and you'll see the 2021 national championship rematch in Baylor versus Gonzaga. Going to be interesting, guys. Tennessee versus South Carolina. I'm going with Tennessee. I just think right now they're the best team in the country. We got Baylor versus Gonzaga. I'm going to go with Baylor. They've impressed me as of late. I wasn't huge on them beginning of the year, but as time has gone on, they've really impressed me. They're hovering that 2 or 3 line currently. So we're going to go with Baylor. Tennessee versus Baylor. Interesting Elite 8 matchup. We're going with my likely pick to win the national championship in Tennessee. We got Iowa State versus Tennessee. Here, I'm going to go with Tennessee. And we got UNC versus Nevada. Going to go with UNC. And here is a championship matchup. We got Tennessee versus North Carolina. Who is going to win this matchup? I got Tennessee winning the national championship. Once again, just like last week, have Tennessee winning. So congratulations to the Bulls. And I'm signing out of here. And keep an eye on tomorrow. Hopefully, Dan Spielvogel will make a post and a video. I believe he's going to make a video about the conference championship games upcoming. So keep an eye out for Bulls posts tomorrow.